Welcome back to another episode of the Catapult Effect podcast. I am your host, Katie Wrigley, and I have with me today a fellow business owner and fellow cognitive movement practitioner, Coral Buchanan. Coral has been coming up with some really amazing things within her cognitive movement business practice, and it's very different from the things that I'm doing. So I wanted to take this opportunity to bring her on. And she also has a really cool offer that is coming in early January of 2026. So stay tuned. That is coming right up.
Welcome to the Catapult Effect, a podcast where professionals like you turn challenges into opportunities for extraordinary growth. If you're tired of struggling, feeling lost, and ready to catapult yourself into the best version of you, then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Katie Wrigley.
Thank you for joining me today. I know you have your choice of so many things to listen to on the internet, and I really appreciate you being here with me. You could take this and utilize it in your life. So I want to introduce you to my dear friend and my fellow colleague, Coral Buchanan. She is a mother of two amazing teenagers, and she resides in Southern Utah. She is dedicated to helping others rewire their nervous systems to feel safe in expressing their authenticity and building healthy relationships. She is a level 2 cognitive movement practitioner and somatic activated healing guide. Welcome to the Catapult Effect, Coral. It is so great to have you back on here with me.
Thank you so much, Katie. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful to be here.
I love you too. And it's so fun anytime we get to hang out on Zoom. It's better in person, but I'll take Zoom since we're across from each other. So you have been working with cognitive movement for longer than I have. And I actually want to ask you, do you use cognitive movement to help you grow in your role and your identity as an entrepreneur, as a business owner?
100%. Yes. Even from the very get-go, because I never owned a business before. And so going into it, you think it's just going to you think people are just going to magically show up and it's all going to work that way. And that's the furthest thing from what happens in my experience. And so through the years of developing myself into where I'm at now in my business, cognitive movement has been instrumental, because every time I would hit a block, I use cognitive movement, and I think I would have quit a long time ago if I hadn't used cognitive movement. So absolutely, I still continue this day. There's the thing about a business is it's growing us, right? So if we stay in being in this entrepreneurship, it really is about our own personal growth and growth as a human being. So it takes a lot in order to maintain that.
100% on what you just said. So a couple of months into my own journey as an entrepreneur, I was working with a vocal coach, which has definitely paid off from the feedback that I've gotten. But one of the things she said, and it stuck with me over and over again, and every time I hear it, I get it on a whole new level. And she said, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. And at that point, I'm only a couple months into it, and I'm just like, what is she talking about? You just leave your job, you start a business, whatever. And then I'm like, oh, that's what she means. And another coach that I was working with at the time that I was actually learning how to grow a business from, she had a year-long course that I took, and it was really helpful to some of the foundation that I have going now. But she had said, entrepreneurship is going to make you grow as you're building your business. And again, I'm just like, what are they talking about? And now, 4.5 years into it, I'm like, I really should have listened more. They were right.
Even if they said it in plain, it's the clearest, we couldn't hear it, because you don't know until you're in it. You're just like, oh yeah, exactly what you're saying. Oh, that's what they meant. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so
worth it all, though. Worth it all.
100%. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. I feel the same. So you mentioned whenever you have a block, you use cognitive movement. So how do you know when you've hit a block, Coral?
Oh, good question. Well, you get, there's times we all go through where we become complacent. We're like, okay, everything's just, this is how it is. And I'm good. I can breathe. And lo and behold, some snafu will come up, or you start to get bored. Actually, you start to get you're just not sure if it's the right thing for you, that sort of thing. So a block to me comes in, usually it's I'll have a heightened experience with either my clientele or just within myself. And because I do so much of this work, I know that is a block. And so it's a feeling. It's a feeling of resistance and shutting down. It's limitation. It's feeling that becoming small and hiding in a way sometimes, or that so stressed that you're like, why is nothing working? And you're in that heightened state. And that is absolutely, you're at a block if you're in those places. But it can also be subtle. It can be just you're in the doldrums. You're doing the same thing repetitive over and over, like that complacency I said. And if you're keen enough, you can know like, oh, I could look at this a little bit, because you're starting to feel that boredom or something else, or like something is missing. And that's a block as well.
You described that so well. Thank you for that. I think that resonates with a lot of different business owners out there as we find these blocks. One of the ways that I know I have a block, and I want to put a video out there about this soon, like using my cats as an example, but like I'll be looking at knowing the exact thing I need to do. Like, oh, this is so important. Squirrel. And then, I'm looking over here and it's like, all right, time to grab my ball, work through that. Like, I know I just identified that this is the most important thing. Why the hell am I not doing it? And then there's always a reason in there.
Yes. Katie, I would say that's more prevalent actually than what I described, because that is so procrastination, or why are we not doing it? We know the answer logically. And you're right. That is an absolute sign that you're in a block, because there's no reason. It's easy, right? But it's not. It's the hardest thing you could ever do, even if it's sending an email. You're like, what? But it's that some of it's mixed in with fear of success and all the things that everyone says, that are true.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And so you've been having some really amazing results in your sessions. And I believe that you've actually started to come up with something that is a piece of the core work that you're doing. And so correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm pretty sure I did this, but you work a lot with people around different relationships, correct?
Absolutely. Yes. And so some of the core work that I'm coming into, that I'm like, man, if I would have known this when I started, either way, it doesn't matter where we're at, because it has to do with love and authenticity. And that is that, and what it is when we are striving to get validation or approval, which in this society is most of us what we are doing, we're seeking something missing out of us from someone else. And what I have learned from all of this work, and just recently, literally some true self-love sessions, the level of confidence, the level of being okay with exactly where I'm at and what I'm doing, and knowing that there's steps and there's a journey, but real acceptance of myself. I've been, I say a holy roller, but I don't know if that's the correct term, but anyhow, I am rolling it out to anyone and everyone who will do these sort of sessions that I have come up with, that are not, I was going to say not a shortcut, because there's no such thing, but they certainly get to the heart of the matter very quickly. And it assists in our relationships with our parents, if we have siblings, but ultimately it's with ourselves. And when we have this assuredness and this authenticity in ourselves, not only do we move through the world differently, but people around us get the permission to do the same, because they see it and feel it in us.
I love that. I was talking to a client earlier today who happens to be a widow. She'd actually, we did a session together, and she was talking about how some of the other people that she works with are getting divorced. And as she's hearing the reasons they're getting divorced, like it's making her angry again. She's a widow and did not want to lose her husband. And she's like hearing it, thinking like, you could totally work through that. And this is something that's really, really common in relationships, is that when you get to these points of strife, it can feel like you're broken. It can feel like there's something wrong. So what's actually going on at a nervous system level when couples are hitting these bumps in the road, Coral?
Yes, thank you. Well, the nervous system is actually showing where that dynamic feels unsafe, because it was something that in their past could have caused some real tension in their life. And so they're just mirroring it back and forth with their partner, whoever that is. And it's just really the nervous system not feeling safe. And so in this work with cognitive movement, that is exactly what we're doing. And you mentioned it. We're training the nervous system. We're retraining the nervous system back in, like we would do weights or anything else, back into rest and digest, into calm, into focus and clarity. And when we have that, you'll know. I mean, if you're in a relationship and you're having a good day and someone else is in a bad mood, you can look and see that, oh, they're in a bad mood and it has nothing to do with me. But if you're in a bad mood and they're in a bad mood, look out. Because
Right.
the blame game starts, but ultimately it is the nervous system's just being charged, and because of some sort of tension that could have caused unsafe situations or whatever it deemed that way, because a paper cut can feel like that or a chainsaw could feel like that. It just depends on the person, but the nervous system is what is driving the subconscious to the conscious.
And thank you for describing that, because I want to dive into that deeper, but I want to kind of pause and talk about, like, when we talk about needs to train the nervous system, part of what happens to us over the course of life, and I mean the whole collective whole of humans, is various different events in our lives teach us that certain things aren't safe. And from those moments, they become very unresourceful nervous system patterns. Like, one of the ones that was running in my body for 25 years was back pain. To a doctor, I had back pain with XYZ diagnosis. To a cognitive movement practitioner, I had an unresourceful nervous system practice. And to me, that's a much more open way of looking at it, because if it's a nervous system pattern, I can change it, which took me a while to really get on a deep level. But these patterns can come out. It doesn't have to necessarily be this big T traumatic event. Any little time over the course of our lives when our needs were not met, the nervous system may check that as a trauma and treat it as a trauma. And then this unresourceful nervous pattern takes off from that.
Absolutely.
And you know this as well as I do. And then when we get into these relationships, now you've got two people who have had all this shit happen to them over the course of their lives. They've got all these unresourceful nervous system patterns, and now they're running together and they're mirroring each other. So what are some of the ways, Coral, that these nervous system dysregulations, for lack of a better word, it's a big word, but what are some of the ways that this can show up in a relationship with two people, whether it's, romantic relationship, mother-child, father-child,
Even business,
whomever it may be.
every relationship. Sorry, even relationship. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, business. Yes, every relationship. So what are some of the things that you're seeing in these relationships with clients that are coming in to see you? What are some of the things that flag you and say, "Ooh, I know that's a nervous system pattern here. I can help you"?
Oh, well, the number one is blame.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If we are blaming someone else, ultimately it is our own inability to stand up for ourselves. And so then we are resentful, mad, or whatever that is. And so we're blaming them because they didn't make us feel safe, the nervous system. And so we want them to change, when ultimately, if we can take our power back and we can put that fire out of whatever that is, that pattern, we wouldn't even see them the same way anymore. We would see them as, oh, that's theirs. And I can handle it because I don't need something from them. I don't need the validation or them to change what happened. So blame is number one. And then really a disconnect. When you feel disconnected, you can't connect. It's because we have expectations. We're not accepting what is about that person. So say, I'll just use something silly, but say they slurp when they eat, and you're just like, but what is it about me or someone else that doesn't just see that as them? Why is that grating on my nervous system? Well, who knows? Maybe somewhere back in time, slurping ended up with a broken window, or I don't really know. That's just a weird example. I always give those, but it doesn't matter, because in that moment there's a disconnect, and it's because of non-acceptance. We're not really accepting that about someone, but ultimately it's a fear about ourselves if someone were to do that to us, because we weren't accepted in that same scenario. So it's disconnect, blame, and And also having the relationship drain us. If we're feeling drained, we're overgiving or we're overcompensating for something that we're expecting the other to give us or do for us. And so we just do it ourselves for both, or, whatever that dynamic is. And so we start feeling drained and resentful and that sort of thing. And that's just a pattern. It's literally just something that we're trying to give to get instead of just accepting and being in ourselves, in our center.
I really love that you gave that feeling drained as an example, because I think this is something that happens, especially with people who may not have a lot of practice with boundaries and being able to set those boundaries. And so we wind up feeling drained. So from a cognitive movement perspective, when someone's coming to you and like, my husband's the devil and he did this, and totally in blame, and like, guy drains me all the time, what are the things that you're looking at to help them shift, Coral?
Oh, well, it's the feeling. It's the feeling of whatever that is going on, why they feel drained. And when their nervous system can feel the drain feeling or the resentment or whatever the blame is, that, and it's usually a constriction or a heavy weight, or you're just so exhausted you can't even, you're just like slump, when they can actually in the moment be in that experience, and it could be an emotion too, but they're in the experience and they can be, and their nervous system comes out of that, they're not in that scenario anymore, they're literally with me working on some pattern, they can observe that feeling and basically integrate it, or it becomes a part of them, if that makes sense, so that it's not a threat any longer. They can be calm with it because they can experience it as an experience, but also come into the moment of safety at the same time. And so they're no longer in that threat. I know I repeated it twice, but
No, it's all good. Yeah. And I love that. And that's exactly the piece that allows us to get into the nervous system, is focusing on that physical sensation. And what a lot of people, myself included, didn't know before getting introduced to cognitive movement is anytime we have an emotion, any kind of feeling, there is a physical sensation along with it. And so as practitioners, that's what we're looking at, is like, how does this feel in my body? And it doesn't have to make sense. It may have a color, it may have a shape, it may have a taste, it may have a texture. Like it may look like something that doesn't make sense. Like it may have a weight to it.
And we say that, but it's like almost it's empowering to let someone. So if you were to assign a color to it, or if you were to assign a shape or something of this feeling in their body, it's actually empowering because it separates them from being it to it is happening in me, and I'm able to put my focus and awareness there, but it empowers them to know that it is not them. It's an aspect that comes through them. We are not anger. We are not blame. We experience those things to different degrees, but, and we can become it in a way when we lose ourselves, but we bring ourselves back and we can observe that it isn't us as an identity.
I love that. I love that. That's a really good distinction. And when we are angry for a while, like I have been, it does feel like it's not really a friend because you don't really like it, but it's a constant companion that you're used to.
Yeah, it protects us.
Yeah.
Ultimately, anger is the root of it is hopelessness, or helplessness, because what gets attention? What says no, like any boundary? Anger. Thank you, anger, for being there when I didn't have the self-reliance that I have now. And it can also become where it owns you, in a sense. And so it's now with cognitive movement, I also was very angry, and I wouldn't consider myself that. It's not my disposition, because ultimately in our essence, that's not our disposition, but it has become a defense mechanism for many of us. And because we have so much betrayed ourselves in our authenticity, that it's what keeps us here. It's what keeps us feeling like we're safe, even though it's pushing people away, disconnecting, and eating us alive, essentially, because our cells are inflamed with it, with that feeling.
Yeah, like that Buddhist quote is holding anger for someone else is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But oh, it gives us something to do. And if you look at it on an energetic chart, like David Hawkins' chart, power versus force, or yeah, power versus force, which we walk through in Cognitive Conscious, the yearly event that Liz Larson and Bill McKenna run out in San Diego. It's amazing. Recommend anybody to go take it out. But anger is the first level where we actually start to have energy. So it's so much more appealing than grief, than shame, than guilt. And just as a side note, anger is also usually secondary. It's so much easier to be angry than it is to admit that someone hurt our feelings, or that we're holding shame, or that we feel really bad because we were an asshole to someone. Like, it's so much easier to just be pissed than to go into those emotions. And like for me, the anger was my default. It was really hard for me to get into those other emotions again. I remember having a conversation with my friend and coach, Melanie Curtis, one time, and she had the opposite, where she was like learning how to get angry because that hadn't been her default. Her default was to get sad if someone was mean to her, which is now like, that's my reaction now. But initially I was just like, no, screw you. And anger is just another unresourceful nervous system pattern. Like, and when we get into those anger patterns, so-and-so does this, I react with anger, I get the result that I want. And so we continue to have this going on because anger can be forceful, and there's not a lot of people who are going to want to stand up against some pissed off person and hold their ground. Like, that's really hard to do, especially if the person is angry over and over and over again.
Exactly. So to the person in that moment experiencing that, it seems resourceful. It's like, well, what do I do if I don't? Would I just be a pushover, or, people just push through my boundaries if I don't have that level? But what happens when you start to regulate the anger and you bring it into balance? The thing about this work is anger can be called forth anytime. Meaning like if it needed to be in a fight or flight situation, it would still be able to be called forth. But what happens when you come from the state of, mostly that's what we rely on, including myself, into this balanced state, you have such clarity and calmness about you, and the way that we handle situations, we really do it with compassion and authority, or assertiveness. And so people don't really push it anymore. So you think that anger would be the way that you get the results, but ultimately when you come from a confident place, people listen and people react in the way that we need to, because they know you mean it. And when we mean it, there's no question, there's no argument, because you stand by you.
Yeah, I love that. You stand by you. That's beautifully said. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about how you're taking this role that you're seeing that love is playing with a lot of these different relationships, and what are you doing with this in 2026, Coral?
Yes. Well, I really, truly, if everyone in the world would just know that. No. I have created a 10-week workshop, and it is about allowing the body to open to love, basically rewiring the nervous system to receive love. Because the beginning of my life, all the way into this last year, I was seeking love and seeking it externally from someone else to give it to me. And the ways I did that was people pleasing, or whatever you want, over giving, overdoing, thinking I had to be perfect in order to receive love. And I was basically pushing it away, thinking that I was, because you think, but that's like, everyone's like, no, if you don't have it, if you're not confident, or you don't feel good about that, and you're insatiable, they only have a certain capacity too, because they're coming from their own nervous system, their own, if they're secure in their attachment style. And so when it switched for me in this last year, so much so coming into my heart and in having unity in my mind and heart, and really, I call it love, but it's actually, well, what it is, it's self-acceptance. And what that feels like is just warm and content and assured. And so in this 10-week course that I have created, or workshops that I'm going to be doing, we're going to go through these key points that I have discovered in myself through this journey that really brings you to this place of being content with yourself and walking through the world with a confidence. And my creativity is off the charts compared to where I was before. Recently, I'm starting to do things that I never thought possible in my life, like even starting to sing. I'm not singing out in public, but singing with confidence, actually, and sharing it. And that's not anything that was ever available to me. And that's just an aspect of creativity. My relationships with my teenagers, with I've always, I always strive to be amicable in every relationship, but there's a deepness that's coming, and I'm starting to really feel about myself forming a community and in a real way, like working towards it and seeing myself being in the foundation of it and that sort of thing, which that before I was trying to find a community. And so I've been in the works of creating communities, creating a community, but this is a shift that has a real deep truth to it. And in this workshop that I've created in these key points in this 10 weeks, there will be a community that is formed of people working to open their nervous systems to receiving love, opening in a new way that maybe they've never experienced in their life. And so it's just something to me that is essential in this current culture that we have of disconnection and loneliness.
I love that. And it's so important to have that connection there. And you said something in there that really stood out, is that you have a relationship with your teenagers, and so many other parents, the teen years are tough. They're tough on everybody. They're tough on the teenager, they're tough on the parents. But a lot of times that's a place where parents feel like the most distance from their kids. And that's not the experience you're having. Like you're very close to both of your kids, and you have very healthy dynamics with them as well.
Yes, and it is a work in progress. I would say it's always that, because when our teens or children, if we're trying to create, I need you to behave this way so I can accept you, that is a complete disconnection. And so what this work has helped me to create in myself, is to actually see them as sovereign beings. And yes, I'm a mother, but I get to enjoy who they are, their personality, their likes, their wants. So I am not, I'm still mom. I still have resistance. It's hard, and I check myself, but I'm allowing them to unfold how they need to unfold with guidance, versus I need you to be this way in order for me to give you love, which is the old paradigm of what no one's fault, but that's what I understood. And so, it has deepened and continues to deepen, and I am not perfect. And like I had said, and so there is a continual work towards it, but it is wonderful. And I couldn't imagine myself being here when they're 16 and 17, almost 18, but when they were 13, 14, those are difficult times. That's when they're finding their sovereignty. That's when they're going independent. And so it's the most resistance in the parent, because we're having to let go of them being our babies, our children, to becoming this independent, wild hormone being. And I don't want you to be that way. I want you to be my child still. And that's not what they want. And that's not what they necessarily need. They need the guidance. But yeah, so it's the whole thing. But that's when my real work started towards my relationship with them, realizing like, whoa, I am totally repeating what I experienced. And that's not to the, anyways, so there we are.
Yeah. And, not to mention that the part of the brain that's most active in a teenager is the part that argues. So they're literally hardwired to argue with us, which doesn't make anything easier. But I love what you said there, because I know a lot of parents. I'm not one myself, other than the fur babies you see here, which is a whole different thing. But it is such a challenge for parents to be able to, and hats off to every parent out there, especially the ones that are able to do this at any level at all, is to let your kid be themselves and to trust that you have done a good enough job to let them start to grow into that independence, to let go of the shit that almost killed you when you were a teen, because all that starts running through your head, the fear level of parents, especially as teenagers start driving, start getting close to the age of 18, they're probably drinking, probably trying drugs, because that's just what teenagers do. They're trying to figure all this stuff out. And it can be absolutely terrifying to let that kid go out there and be them. And of course, we still need boundaries. We still need rules.
But the guidance is still needed. Absolutely.
Right. Guidance is still needed. And that's part of what makes it tricky is they don't think they need the guidance, but we know they need the guidance. Even me, without being a parent, I know they need the guidance. But the fact that you're able to do that, that is such a loving thing. And that is such a skill to be able to cultivate. Like there was another client that I was talking to at another time, and he was saying how his mom just keeps saying, like, just go out there and be you, kid. Just go out there and be you. And I'm like, you was such a good mom. And he's like, I really do. And it's because she's letting him go be himself, even if it scares her, even if it's not what she'd want to do. She's in full support of him being 100% himself. And so just thank you for being that kind of parent to your kids, because that gives them this whole other level of security and secure foundation for them to go out into the world and to know that, hey, no matter who I am, I have my mom and I have my dad, and they are going to love me for whoever I am. And that's just beautiful. So thank you for being that kind of parent, Coral.
Thank you. It's still a journey, and it has been. And really, truly on our end, when we do cognitive movement on the things that we do see in our teens that are feeling out of sorts, we also create a safer space for them to connect with us around those things that they experience in these years, because we're no longer threatening them with our removal of our love or approval because of said whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we still have the after school special talks. You still have all that. That doesn't go away.
Right.
It's not easy 100%, but yeah, absolutely it is. And that's a key relationship, because our children really, everyone says it, but they really are the future. And the more secure that they are, they go out and create that in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. The bigger things are going to be able to create. So going back to this program, all about love, receiving love, it helps relationships at any level. So where can people sign up for this program, Coral?
Yes, absolutely. So they can go to my website, coralbuchanan.com, and there will be a button they can click and they can sign up for the program. If they would like to discuss the program, there's a discovery call link in there as well, and they can have a free 30-minute talk with me about if it's right for them. So that's how they would be able to get into this amazing journey that's starting in January 18th. It's a Sunday. Yeah.
Awesome. So it'll be Sundays starting January 18th?
Yep. 10 Sundays in a row, January 18th. It'll be at 3:00 Mountain Time. So wherever your time zone is, you need to figure that out. And there will be replays available during the 10 weeks, but live every week. And the community will be there in support of each other and growing alongside in this amazing unfolding. That's with love.
Well, I'm hoping to be able to join that program. I got to make room in my schedule if so, but it sounds absolutely amazing. And receiving has been something that had been a challenge for me in the past, but has been easier since cognitive movement. I know your work because I get to work with you all the time. So I know how good you are at what you do. And to the listener out there who's looking for support, Coral, where can they find you?
Oh, well, I'm on Instagram at Coral Be Insta. I'm on YouTube. I have a website, and then I also have NeuroWise Gym. I do that with another person. It's every Wednesday, and it is also a community of cognitive movers, and that's they can find that on my website as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And is there any last thought that you want to leave with the listener today that may be struggling with love? Maybe they just had a breakup, or maybe they have lost someone that they really love, or maybe they're thinking about getting back out there again. What would you want to say to that person right now, Coral?
Well, to that, I would say any experience you've ever had of connection with someone else, whether they're still in your life or whether they have passed on or they've left or whatever it is, it doesn't discount that experience. and we generate that feeling that we experience with them. We're actually creating it, and we're feeling that we need that in order to have it. But if we can think in the fond memories or the things that felt warm and content, and we can really focus with gratitude on that, it does help in the grieving process and some of the letting go if that is what is required. And so I would just say, knowing that you are generating the actual feeling, the actual emotion of what was shared and what is perhaps missed, and finding that again and letting yourself experience that, because that will grow into something else beautiful.
Very well said. Thank you. That is a wonderful note to end on. Thank you so much for joining me today, Coral. It's always a pleasure when I get to talk to you.
Thank you, Katie. And it's likewise.
And thank you to the listener today for tapping in and hearing what we had to say. And go find Coral. We'll make sure all of her links are in the show notes so that you can go sign up for her program January 18th, 2026, and see how it can shift your 2026 to open you to more love and see what else changes in your world. Because you may be focused on love, but you are one person, one body, one mind. And so you never know how allowing this love in is going to impact other areas of your life. So thank you again for joining me today. And until next time, please be well.
Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend and leave a 5-star review, which helps grow the podcast and reach others just like you. While you're at it, connect with Katie on social media. You can find her on LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. This has been the Catapult Effect with Katie Wrigley. Thanks for listening.